no more because I have to be with something. Like every line with Armin, every scene with Armin and Eren inside the time thing is so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. Oh, it's so bad. Yeah, suddenly Peak is like, don't worry, I can solo 500 titans because I got this power up. It's incredibly Deus Machina. Aspected by Peak though, but still. She's just like, actually, this is my real power. I'm learning about the truth. Armin is like, friendship. It's like, I don't care, man, I don't care, okay? No one cares. Armin is like, talk no jutsu. So now suddenly Seek, all the previous Ymir, all the previous Titan wielders that they know are suddenly gonna turn against Eren, right? Because now they all remember that they were actually, so now here comes Ymir-chan, he's gonna help them, and, Galliard, he's gonna be like, I got you, bro! Yeah, no, I got the Gabinator! She, of course, hits the Okipaki pig thing. Because we all know that the Gabinator has the ultimate Kiddy ratio. Rainer is like wrestling with the caterpillar. Oh my god, his standing is so stupid. Being Netorad or whatever, Ymir is like, yeah, you go, girl. This is so awkward. And she gets inside the head inside the hair reception. And she finally, for some reason, does this. Why couldn't she do it over? Oh, it's so stupid. Oh, what a terrible scene this wouldn't have died and so on. So it's just straight up my grandfather time paradox. This is definitely a time paradox because if she got the powers, it would be a very different storyline, right? She would team up with her husband and all that stuff, right? So this is like a massive paradox that Eren actually made his own mom. That he basically created himself, like doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because that means that in the original timeline, how did Eren then get the powers? So definitely. So it's finally over, right? The worst anime ending. The first idea, right, is some of the best bits, right, I feel, of my reaction. I can just be a little summarizing there, right, of the best part. That was a big. But I think that especially the last part of the episode, or the last chapter then, is where it really becomes terrible, right? Like that's a moment where you're like, oh my god, is this real? I mean, generally, the whole episode I think is terrible, right? It's from beginning to the end, basically. But especially, of course, in the last bit, which is the last chapter, right? Which is like, oh, Eren, thank you for doing this stuff, Eren. Well, Ymir was in love with one. Yeah, like, it's like the whole last 20 some minutes are just absolutely like 0 out of 10. But, you already seen my kind of reaction bit then, or my full reaction and so on. Let's just talk about some of the plot holes, right? And some of the issues of this last episode. And why I think genuinely is like the worst anime ending ever. The only anime ending that I feel was worse is like Fina, the Pirate Princess. That is also incredibly bad. And also Promised Neverland. Like, but it's up there, it's up in those like Promised Neverland, Fina. It's up in this like absolutely echelon of like insanely bad endings. But I'll just break down some of the issues that I didn't bring up in the reaction. I guess maybe I did, but not like in this way. So first of all, there are many plot threads that this episode and the end of storyline doesn't explain. And that's always a bad thing, I think, for any storytelling. So this is, of course, unfortunately true for most stories, I say, where the author doesn't really explain a lot of these like mysteries. So, about the Ackermen. Why are the Ackermen immune? Why is this thing? Not really explained. Mikasa being a princess, likewise, right? Why is that important? It isn't important. That is actually probably one of the worst writing part of the whole Titan. That she's a princess of the Japanese. She's like a shogun's daughter or whatever, whatever. But like, it doesn't really mean it. It's just such a weird thing that, oh, here comes this like Japanese lady, and oh, yeah, actually Mikasa is a Japanese princess, and that's why she's gonna help them. But then it doesn't ever come back to that. It doesn't really like. It's just so terrible writing to just like, basically making the female main character be a princess because that's cool, just to be a Zelda, basically. Yeah, but it feels so forced, right? Like, it is so incredibly forced that she is that. But again, it is never ever really explained why these like Eastern people are immune to the powers. Not really explained what's happening outside the world with the other countries, right, that are against the Bali and so on. And wouldn't like the Japanese be better than if you can't be controlled or something? But I mean, like, I don't know. It's just weird. The whole thing is just really weird. never explained. Right? And there's many of these plot threads that are, resting, so to speak, in this that this anime ending doesn't answer, I guess, right? I'm not gonna go over all of them, but you get my point. It's like that, and there's just so much of that. There actually is this spin-off, right? The Son of Titan, whatever it's called, where they try to explain the blades they use, right? But that's not really explained here in the anime either. Like, why are these 3D maneuver gear? Was it built? How does that work? How does those, like, sword thing they have actually work? That's not really explained. And then it's like, I guess it's like armored Titan body parts or something. The episode, if anything, just adds more weirdness to it. That, for example, as I keep saying in my action part, like, why can Falco fly, but Eren can't fly, even if he can use all the powers? What doesn't he fly for? Why can't he create birds for, if he can create any other power? For some reason, he can't create birds, right? It's an obvious plot hole. A lot of that stuff is, going on in this episode, right? With the powers. And I feel Ishiyama has, like, seriously dropped the ball in every possible way, because I feel like I was like, okay, why is Eren turning into the Titan for? That's because he can have an arm wrestle with Armin, right? But logic doesn't make any sense, because like I said in the reaction part, he's lost his powers by then, right? He lost the found powers, so he can't use the other powers, but he can't because it's cool, right? Like, it's just a massive issue that the last arc, basically, after the time skip, has thrown out everything that is, like, logical, and it's like the rule of cool over rule of logic, right? Everything is just like, how can I make this look cooler or whatever, instead of trying to be consistent, right? But so what it does that is it keeps adding weird mystery threads, like, can they fly? Or this guy could fly. It's explained why? No. And why can't they fly? It's not explained. You know what I mean? It doesn't answer stuff. It just keeps making more. So that's one massive issue. Massively so, right? Of course, it answers some stuff. I'm not saying it doesn't answer anything, but I'm saying that it didn't answer a lot of different mysteries that has been put forth during the storyline. It also ends, which I think is a huge issue for the last episode, in the last chapter, then, this grandfather paradox. Right? I explained it earlier, I explained it here again, because it's an important point to point out. It doesn't make any sense at all. So, the thing is that Eren explained that actually Bernholt was gonna be eaten, right, by Dina Fate. If that happened, she would then become the Cross Titan, right? That was the actual reality. He's explaining that he controlled, his stepmom, right, to go over to his mom. He's basically motivating himself, right? So it's a very classic grandfather paradox where the character has to do something in the past to motivate himself to be who they are, right? So, it's like, it's kind of like if Batman, if his parents doesn't, perish in the beginning of his life, he won't be motivated to become Batman, right? So it's kind of like, for example, in the Flashpoint or whatever, right? He try to, save his parents and so on. That creates an alternate universe where he isn't the Batman anymore. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. Like, Eren is like, I had to actually make sure that his mother gets eaten so he can become who he is, right? And if actually then in the past, so to speak, in the actual reality, the first, because if you have different time versions, right? You have some kind of original timeline. Then you have the current timeline, right? Because Eren has been, altering the past, right? Like his dad too. He's been altering the past to achieve the current timeline, right? So you have some kind of OG timeline back in the base, right? We don't know exactly how that timeline looks. That also is a massive plot thread hole there, or issue, particularly, that the author should explain to us the actual timeline and what Eren has created right now. Not exactly like, letter by letter, but he could explain, like, this is the basic plot line that would have happened, but Eren has been altering it like 5-6 times. Look at Eren, for example, talking to his dad, right? That's an altering timeline, right? So imagine if Eren has done this several times to get where we currently are. That would have been a much better storyline, and explaining what the basic was, the base was, and how he has changed it, right? But instead, Ishiyama does this really poorly, and he throws out a little bit, but actually, Bernholt would have been eaten instead of Mom. That's one of the base points, right? And he kind of throws out some base points, but he wasn't really explaining exactly how the OG timeline was. But regardless, we are currently not in the OG timeline, obviously, because Eren has changed it coming to what we are at right now, right? It's been altered in the past to create the current timeline. But, however, that shouldn't really be a grandfather paradox. You can't, because alternate timeline to create yourself again is a paradox, right? You can alter the timeline to create what you want it to be, right? But if you have to alter it to make yourself, then it has a paradox, right? Because basically what he's saying then is that, if I hadn't altered the timeline, I would never get the powers, but you need the powers to first alter the timeline. Like, it logically doesn't make any sense. That's why it's a paradox. It's a straight up plot hole. It's a crazy plot hole. It is, and I've been very, I don't say, but people defending this thing, right, for years now, since the manga ended. But again, it genuinely doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Think about what I said, right? He needs the power to make sure he gets the powers. That doesn't make any sense. Furthermore, it's even dumber to think about it. And this was changed in two different sets, I believe. But that also that she is the one eating it too. Not only would she not then eat his mom, again, creating a paradox, but she will get the powers though. Now she has a royal bloodline. So what would have happened then? So the OG timeline is actually very different, right? Because Balance would be eaten. One of the royal powers person would become a colossal titan, and she would know the truth. She's a revolutionary. She and her husband, right? Grisha would see that and probably team up with her or whatever. So the OG timeline is probably extremely different, right, than what we currently have. And you have to wonder, how did Eren and so on get his powers in that timeline? And the only thing you can argue against this, I would say, is that in the OG timeline then, Grisha and stepmom would somehow give Eren the powers anyway, and then he would alter the timeline, so his mom would die, so he would get the powers. Which again, doesn't make any sense then, because he needs to get his powers in the OG timeline to be able to alter the timeline. But why would he alter the timeline if he gets the powers in either way to heal his mom, because his stepmom would also do it for some reason or something. So it doesn't make sense. It logically doesn't pan out whatsoever. And that's only in the last chapter, right? And this is how Ishiyama is a terrible writer. I said it before, I say it again. I think he really is terrible at writing stuff. It's straight up is. He's only good at creating this general premise, right? But he's terrible at actually concluding his storylines. He comes up with these, convoluted ideas, which are good on paper, right? All this, blah, 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 but he can't actually deliver on execution, right? Because the last chapter is so bad in how it is kind of like, what's the point of adding everything is explained with this grandfather paradox? It's completely pointless. He doesn't have to add that thing. He doesn't actually add, too much to the storyline. It only basically makes Eren looks, more emotional. Oh, I had to make mom die so I could get my powers, right? It's just purely like there to be like an emotional. So Armin can be like, "Thank you, Eren. You're the coolest guy ever," And that's only there for it. But from a logical standpoint, it's completely terrible, right? Yeah, but it's only there to be like a little extra emotion. Again, it's a very forced situation. So that's one thing. But I think it's also honestly kind of the worst part of the last bit there. Because it is, again, logically has zero value. But then, of course, Armin thanking him for this does, which is insanely terrible scene. Followed up that we, of course, now know that everything Eren didn't help anyone anyway. What Eren did still resulted in paradise in the alien country being destroyed, right, by other countries. Because his plan is something I told people for a long time now. I think more people agree with me this, but here is that it doesn't make any sense either to go for the 80% stuff, right? Because then you leave 20% of people to rebuild their countries, which they do then they all just go over to paradise and nuke it, right? Yeah, because they're like, screw those people, yeah. Which of course they would. Why would they ever trust the aliens to have a peace treaty with them after this guy did this insane, mass thing, right? Like, no one would ever trust them, ever. He does like the worst thing that humans have ever done, right? Why would they ever trust him? Like, Eren is much, much worse than anything. Think about this thing. Eren is like 100 times worse than anything we could imagine in our reality, right? No humans ever done anything remotely close to what he did, right? I know you can say some people in history that this and that and so on, and you obviously probably know what I'm thinking about. We probably think about the same person, but this person didn't even do it like a tenth, right, of Eren did. Eren is like 100 times more people, died or whatever. So it doesn't make any sense. No one would ever trust those guys, right? It doesn't make any sense. The army is like talk jutsu downing the Marleys after they all lose their powers. Why would they trust them? They should just immediately remove them. Yes, they're very much more realistic if they were like, let's get them now when we can, right? And so on. And then they go in this peace treaty, blah blah blah, and everyone dies. So that doesn't resolve anything. what Eren did just doomed all the aliens to lose their country anyway, right? Like it's a terrible ending. The only thing he accomplished is that like Mikasa and his friends are basically living in peace just for that dear lifespan. And as soon as that's over, then the other countries arrive and just basically, right? Which means he's like, oh, I did it for Mikasa and Armin and so on, yeah. And then Mikasa and Armin like, thank you, Eren, we can live in peace, I can have my children, and I can live a happy life with my husband and so on, right? That's what they're saying. But of course, as soon as basically her life is over, right, like a old lady, she's passing on because of age, right? Then her daughter is gonna get basically, So it's like, is that a good ending for them? No, Eren just completely failed, and that's why the whole ending is just so bad. Like, what's even the point of adding that? I think Ishiyama really, really lost the ending. What is the point of even adding that, right? What's the point of adding that everything he did was pointless, because then you have everyone lose anyway. Then, like, what is the benefit of having them all live in peace for like 5 years or whatever? I mean, like, what's the point? And also that it's like a really weird ending, as a to that no one actually takes any damage during the final fight. Everyone's fine after that. Yeah, no, Levi is hurt like a little bit, but like, they're all fine. Mikasa is pretty fine. Yin is fine. Connie is fine. No one actually dies there. Everyone is perfectly healthy and fine, right? So it's really silly. Like, oh no, I want to save all my friends, but also I will immediately make everyone after they are past age kind of thing. It's just a really weird, happy ending, but also not happy ending on the same time, right? And then you think about it in a longer perspective. You also have that Eren can change time, and he's talking about his friendship and blah blah. Why did he let Hange do this thing, or Irvin, or whatever? Like he could have manipulated the time or so on, or why even let Hange lose? Because he was trying to lose on purpose and so on. So if she was like, oh, I need to save the airplane, he could have literally just like made her pass out or something after she had stopped his colossal sight that he actually didn't want to win with anyway. Because think about it, he's trying to lose on purpose, so there's no reason for him to hurt Hange. He could have just have left her, save the airplane and then let her be exhausted, hide away somewhere. And that goes for like Sasha, and it goes for all his friends, right? Why couldn't he let Gabby just not, do this thing or something? I guess you could argue that this needed to happen exactly like this for the timeline, but he can control the timeline, so it just causes so many questions. Like, okay, but why did you do this thing? Why didn't you say that before? It's causing so many issues when he's trying to lose, especially with Hange. Sasha at least you could argue that the Gabinator has to do that. She could get involved in the whole thing and be hated by them, and that leads to him and Mikasa at the table. So I guess you could argue with that. But Hange is like, no, she wouldn't be able to go with them on the airplane anyway. She was already, basically over for her. So just having her survive, having her not being heated up, that would have caused the exact same result, right? Because literally, her death is pretty pointless for Eren. He doesn't do anything. The other characters don't even know she's dead, right? They're flying away from her and like, oh, she's probably screwed. But I mean, think about that thing. That's probably the better thing about it. The other characters, Gleba and so on, doesn't even know that Hange died or not, because they're flying away from her, right? They don't know what happened with her, right? They don't even know that. They will do the exact same thing anyway. Because they assume that she has, taken it, but they don't know. So that's pointless. Eren could have just saved her. I don't care that much, but I mean, you get my point. It's so much of that. And, I mean, the general ending, it's just Armin talks Zeke down, and then he just makes them all join him too. He makes all the other, former people, Ban and so on, join him, right? It is such an incredible Deus Machina ending where Armin gets eaten immediately with that pig thing, and then instead of that being a bad thing, Armin just talks everyone to just join them. But at the same time, Eren wants to lose, so why wouldn't he just like have them not be controllable? It's just so much like incredible thing. Ymir, of course, I've been over that many times, but Ymir's Stockholm Syndrome thing is so terrible, and it just doesn't logically make any sense, right? If she's gonna... I feel I'm broken record with Ymir, but it's just so bad writing, and people always defend it by, oh, she has Stockholm Syndrome. But no, she doesn't, because if you have Stockholm Syndrome, you would just heal yourself. I keep saying it over and over again, but she takes the spear, right, for Fritz, and then she dies there. Why? She could easily heal herself, because she wants to be his wife, and she's married to him, and they have kids and so on, right? She wants that, so why not heal yourself, right? It doesn't make any sense. that she can either she has Stockholm syndrome, and she wants to protect him and so on. Okay, let's assume that's true, but then you would heal yourself. It doesn't. Her action is completely illogical, and I was gonna go over it again, but there's so many times. I've been over it like 10, 50 times I feel it over these last years, but it's so terrible, I think, because that's not how human works. Okay, I put out this in here. I hate people using authority fallacy, right? But I say it to be very clear here, right? I work with behavioral science among other things, right? And like I say it as a professional here, no, she doesn't have Stockholm syndrome. It doesn't work like that, because if you have Stockholm syndrome, again, she would not just take the spear. She would have taken the spear, healed him or healed herself, whatever. There's no point for her to just not do it. You know what I mean? Like, or you can argue that at that moment she saw what terrible husband he was or whatever, so she changed her mind or something. But then again, why would she then not be aware of that then during these 2,000 years, right? Like, logically, I keep saying it, but it doesn't make any sense. Either she's in love with him. Think about Stockholm syndrome as a way of like a yandere bit, honestly, right? Stockholm syndrome is usually very codependent, right? Like, you want to be with your husband or whatever, no matter what, right? So people with Stockholm syndrome in reality are typically yanderes, right? In anime sense. Not exactly, but it's very similar. Because yandere is codependency behavior. You want to be with the guy no matter what, right? It's very, very similar. The difference is supposed that yandere is more like you have this guy you like, and no matter what he does, you like him, kind of thing, right? Stockholm syndrome is more like a trigger. He does something to you, and it should be bad, but you like it, and you start liking him. So Stockholm syndrome is more like the cause, I guess, but the result, basically, of Stockholm syndrome is usually a yandere personality, right? And she basically is a yandere, right? She does something for him, does a war for him, to the spear, the children. She basically is madly in love with him, obsessively in love, like yandere, right? So basically, Stockholm syndrome causes her to become a yandere, it is a way to look at it, right? Regardless, you get my point. She basically is yandere, as right currently. So imagine that Yunu Gasai, right, the most famous yandere in anime and manga. Would she take a spear for Yuki? Of course, she'd be like, Yuki, Yuki, Yuki! Of course she would. She'd be like, Yuki! Of course she would. She would absolutely do that thing. So the issue with Fritz isn't that she does that, right? The issue with Fritz is that if she's gonna have she's madly in love with him yandere style, right? Is that why doesn't use her powers to achieve her goal, right? Yunu Gasai is a 10 times better educated than Ymir because yes, she uses time powers, she time travels, she has all these powers and so on, right? And she uses those powers to be with Yuki, right? So yandere Yunu Gasai is mad in love with Yuki, using her powers to be with Yuki, right? Now Fritz is supposed to be roughly the same, behavior, right? She's supposed to be madly in love, that's why she forgives Fritz and so on, that blah blah so on, right? And again then, why does she use her powers then? She can use her time traveling powers, she can use her time changing powers, right? To be married to him and have a better life with him. But she doesn't, right? It doesn't make anything, she just does nothing. And also again, then why would she heal herself? And the only argument I see for people saying is that at that point where she got the spear, she suddenly was like awakened from the Stockholm syndrome or something. But again then, if there is actually argument for that, then she wouldn't be in love with him anymore in the time thing, or she would return to that, or I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. So it feels like Ishiyama is always he's a terrible character writer. Mikasa, right, is the most one-dimensional character ever. He's always been a terrible writer when it comes to the actual personalities of people. And that's, I feel like, the logic of her doesn't make any sense. Either she's mad in love, and she's willing to do anything to be with him, like for example healing herself, right? Or she's not in love with him, and when she then took the spear for him, she finally could perish, and was finally freed from him, right? That's a much better storyline. And now then she's stuck in this thing because of whatever reasons, but he should have written her not being in love with her, and for some other reason, right, being stuck in this thing. If anything, she could have been stuck just because of the whole WoW thing, right? Because you know how the leaders have this promise, right? They have this promise which they can't break, and that actually is never explained, It actually isn't, right? The former king 150 years ago, he took this promise, this vow, right? And it's not explained why his children or whatever, his grandkids, cannot break it. It's not explained why he did it even, for that matter. Not really. And again, why? And that feels like Ymir should be, but she isn't, right? It's really stupid. What if Ymir instead had her own vow, and when then that king kind of triggered something, he understood her vow or something, and that's why he had the same vow, or something like that. That would be a much better storyline. Or like explain that if the founder titan has this promise thing, then that's it, right? So if he could use that because he was a pacifist, that happened, and Ymir would have used the same vow thing, but much earlier, but a different, of course, promise. She would promise something else, right? But it would trigger her promise power, and that's why she can't leave past something. You know what I mean? Like, it could be written so much better. The ending of Ymir is bad writing. Straight up, it's terrible writing. It's been for years, and I've never ever seen a single person be able to defend Ymir's actions ever. Because the only thing you will hear people say is Stockholm Syndrome, but she doesn't have Stockholm Syndrome. Or she has it, but she doesn't actually act like it should, you know what I mean? So it doesn't make any sense. It's just a bad writing all in all, right? Stuff like that. So the ending is just terrible. And again, everything leading up to the ending is also terrible. It's terrible when Annie meets him at the pie place. Gabby does everything for some reason, flushes about the character. There's so much fights instead of actually explaining anything. Why is Falkus the only bird guy? I mean, why is Armin, Annie, Rainer, why are their parents the only people that can survive the rumbling for some reason? Just so you can have like, Gambare, Rainer-chan, and so on. Yeah, you can have that thing, it's so forced. You know, it's just, and also the end when the kid finds the tree, so it all starts again. Why didn't do that thing? There's so many time plot holes. I mean, obviously with his mom, but also with his dad, because that also is a grandfather paradox basically. So it's like it's like at least two grandfather paradox with his time traveling. Why can he control Zeke for? Why is Zeke teaming up with him in a general sense? How did Eren turn into the caterpillar when it wanted to with Gabby? Because no one ever does it before. The older titans couldn't turn into the caterpillar, right? The tiny caterpillar. The sea in the water, but for some reason Eren could do it when Gabby got him, so he had that power for some reason, but no one else does that. The older founders doesn't do that thing, so why could Eren trigger that thing for or something? I mean, that's completely just like, you know, Deus Machina. Oh, it's actually a caterpillar. Also, the whole caterpillar fight thing, what's the caterpillar want? The caterpillar isn't explained. The caterpillar, it would be better if the caterpillar was never shown, you know. That Zeke is like, here's a caterpillar in the water that's actually blah, blah. That's terrible. Why even add that thing? That just makes it worse. Yeah, you know, the rain or wrestling caterpillar. Why even add that if you're not gonna explain what it is? How does it work? You know, remember in the beginning of the anime, Hange was theorizing that they have sound power, right? Because they all have this, you know, lightning and so on. So it would be much better if Zeke spent a lot more time explaining that the caterpillar is like Superman, and he can like absorb all the sun power, and when he goes into another animal, it can make them grow bigger for this reason or whatever. And like, I would rather have the caterpillar actually having a real backstory and having the motivation. In the end, it just like, makes everyone turn into Titans for some reason. But also, why can't it actually transform? Why can't it make everyone turn into Titans with his smoke then? Why is it only the aliens that transform and not the humans as well? Because you can argue, but actually, why? Honestly, why? Because this smoke that it creates is another power that we actually never seen before, right? This is kind of weird smoke that the giant caterpillar can produce. Why doesn't inhaling that makes your body change, even if you're not an alien? Honestly, that I would say is kind of a weird thing, because you could argue that it can only transform aliens, right? Sure, but inhaling its smoke power, the actual into your body, that should alter you to become a Titan. So that's even also better, I would argue, for if everyone transformed, because by basically getting that smoke, now you are an alien, you know what I mean? That smoke should basically make you an alien, if you get a point, you know? So those Mali guys over there, the military Mali guys, they should become aliens, basically, right? Because they will change their body, right? And then they will all transform. That would be a much better scene, I would argue for. Because now it's like the smoke triggers them, but that's just stupid. Because then that's like a sick scream, you know? So why would you have to have the smoke then? Then the caterpillar could have screamed instead. Because, you know, they are the ones transformed, right, by Zeke screaming, like Connie's mom. So the caterpillar can trigger them by using sound effect. The smoke is redundant, right? But now instead it makes a smoke come out, and the smoke alters their bodies, right, to the Titans. But again, then the smoke should alter everyone's body, and the scream is one that makes them into transform, right? So it's a really weird, like, extra power, so you can transform them by screaming or by smoke, basically. But then why would it? I guess you argue it can't make too much sound effects because it doesn't have the big mountain beast Titan. But it's just, again, it's not explained, you know? Yeah, it's not explained. So it has several different powers to create Titans, I guess. Why does it do it? Why is it explained? What's the motivation? It's just terrible. It adds more mystery to it. And now I heard about it might be a sequel. Maybe it's finally explaining stuff there. I don't know. But again, it's the worst ending ever. What do you guys think? Subscribe, slap it, and have a great day.